channel, John Domenico.
We're ready to educate people.
It's about the good, the bad, and the ugly. No bullshit. The real deal.
All right, episode 11 of The Real
Episode
Deal.
11, The Real Deal.
I'm Nick,
And I'm Naz.
and today, Naz, what are we talking about?
We are talking about tips and tricks to help home sellers get the price they want and need.
And I think when you decide to sell your home, setting asking price is one of the most important factors.
Absolutely.
And decisions that you'll ever make in the process.
Well, usually it's usually the first thing that people see, a buyer sees, right? They go online, MLS, wherever it is. The first thing they're going to look at is, does this home fit my price range, my budget, right?
And I think if it's not, priced effectively, you'll have a lot of buyers, just discard it altogether.
Yep, absolutely.
And that is, goes into, your asking price is often your home's first impression.
Yeah, it is. It always is, really, right?
It's like going on a date.
It's like going on a date. First impressions are everything. I've never personally been on a date.
But you have a fiance.
But I do. She's the only person I've ever been out with. But it's very important, even the first time you meet somebody, right? That's why they say if you have a lousy first impression, you have to make a great lasting impression. But most of the time, if you have a lousy first impression, you don't even get a chance at a second one.
Yeah.
Right?
So first impression is key with the pricing strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, pricing it's not as easy as it sounds, right? And pricing should not be taken lightly. Pricing homes too high could be very, very costly to sellers, right? Because you could be pricing yourself out of the market.
And even pricing them too low as well.
Yep, pricing them too low in a market like this where, interest rates are on the rise and home prices are kind of slightly slipping. People are expecting to negotiate. So listing low in the strategy of, getting multiple offers, unless your home is a knockout home run out of the park, chances of getting multiple offers now are less and less. So pricing low may hurt you as well, right? There's a sweet spot to pricing a home, for sure.
There definitely is. And when you price a home and you generally, just looking at the features of the house, it doesn't do it justice just determining a price based on that.
I agree.
Looking at other, homes or properties in the area of the market recently sold, especially in today's market. This week's sale price is not last month's sale price.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, absolutely. Right. People need to understand. I don't care if a home on your street 3 months ago, let's say February, sold for 1.4. It's not February. It's June. The market has declined, and it's more so in other specific areas, like Durham has declined more than Vaughan, let's say. But regardless of the fact, it has declined, right? So people need to be cognizant of where they are time-wise in the market, right? And pricing strategy always starts with good information, always, right? 9 times out of 10, that good information comes from your realtor, if they're a good realtor.
Yeah.
Right? Good piece of advice is to listen to your realtor, right? I know everybody thinks they're a real estate agent, but it's really important to listen to somebody who does this for a living, right? I don't go to a mechanic and pretend that I can fix cars. No, I listen to what the guy says or a girl says, right? So I trust the professionals that I bring into my life.
I completely agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean with respect to strategies and how your asking price affects your selling price. We do have some strategies that we could share based on our experience. Yeah. With respect to selling their home. So let's go through that, Naz.
So usually 4 common strategies, right? That most sellers use to price their homes. First one is that it's a home's clearly overpriced, which we kind of spoke about very, very briefly. Sellers want it's very easy to explain. Sellers want the most amount of money possible for their house.
Yeah.
Buyers want to pay as little as possible for a house, right? That's the push and pull. How do you overprice your house, right? if more than one agent is competing for your listing. An easy way to win the battle is to overinflate the value of your home. This is done far too often. So what realtors will do is they'll go into a home. Let's say your home's worth $750, you want $850. There's going to be a realtor who's going to say, I can get you $9 just to get the listing, right? When you're overpricing, you really have to consider a few things. You have to consider how long do I want my home to sit on the market for? Do I want to reduce it? You know, you have to consider all those factors, right? Your home is likely to be labeled as a troubled house by other agents, right? The longer it sits on the market. And the longer it sits on the market, you're just going to get hammered on the price when somebody does bring in an offer. Because usually more days on market means the more people think you're willing to negotiate.
And you get a lot more questions.
A lot more, right? Which you don't want.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Falling clearly overpriced. I think somewhat overpriced is also another common strategy that you know most sellers use or what we use.
It's like a scale.
Home. Yeah, I mean about 3/4 of the homes on the market are actually 5 to 10% overpriced.
Right.
And you know these homes might sit a little bit longer than you may want it to or than we anticipate. But however, there's usually 1 to 2 factors that generally play out here. One, you believe that the house is worth X, and that's really what you believe it's worth, or you left some room for negotiating.
Yeah.
Either way in this sort of plan or strategy, this strategy costs you both, in terms of time on the market and the price perceived. So I think it's another effective strategy depending on the market conditions and the seller.
Yeah, where sellers sit a lot of the time when it's overpriced, let's say, sellers will look at a few things. They'll look at list price, right? Because they have access to Realtor.ca. Now with House Sigma, sellers have access to sale prices. And, sellers will say, well, I have a new kitchen or I have a new floors or and what sellers need to realize as well is if you invest X amount of dollars, it doesn't mean that your return is the same or more, right? Some things do affect price to a certain extent, right? Like painting is one of the cheapest things you can do to raise value. Changing the floors is something else you can do that raises value. That's probably on the cheaper end, not like replacing your kitchen, right? But not everything you do is going to bring back the same value. Like putting in a pool is not going to affect the value of your home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? And if it does, it's very, very, very little. It's not this big inflated number. So keep in mind, like not everything brings you the same value at the end of the day, right? So that's also important when pricing your home. I would say the next step in that is being priced correctly at market value. Obviously. And some sellers understand that the real estate market is a part of a capitalistic system of supply and demand, right? And as supply goes down and demand goes up, your home prices inflate, right? And as demand goes down and supply goes up, obviously your houses reduce in value because you have more competition, right? With that being said, is that my phone? Oh, Jesus, sorry. With that being said, these competitively priced homes usually sell within a reasonable time frame and very close to asking price. So basically, your realtor, if they're a good realtor, any realtor really, even an average realtor, they should be looking at the most recent sales based on comparable features between your home and their home, right? Based on that, they should be able to come to you with a pretty close price range to where your home should sell. And you should understand tactics and strategies within that, like a good strategy that some people use is if the going rate in the area is 800,000, I'll list 2% higher than the going rate in the area because that'll give me room to negotiate down to the market value of the home.
Which goes back to the somewhat overpriced strategy.
Yeah. And that, at the end of the day, realistically, your home is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? But if your home is priced correctly for the market, the chances of you selling it for what you've priced it at is a lot higher than overpricing it or underpricing it, which...
Yeah, and I think, like you said, pricing it at market value, you're competitive within the market, number one.
Yes.
and you're likely going to sell the home within a more reasonable time frame and closer to the asking price.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So I think that's the objective of that strategy.
But then there's the back end of that too, right? Like,
And then there's the last strategy, which sort of is reversed of market value. You price the house below market value.
yes, which we've seen a lot at the beginning of this year. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of underpricing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for this, I mean, some sellers are motivated by a quick sale, which is why sometimes they do prefer this strategy over the others. And, you know, these sort of houses or homes that are listed below market attract generally multiple offers.
Yep.
And sell quicker, usually in a few days, at above, you know, market price or sorry, listing price. But, you know, we are cautious, and we do have to be cautious and keep in mind, obviously, our seller's best interests in mind.
Yep.
When we do price below fair market, trying to entertain these multiple offers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think this wraps up the four main strategies that we use.
It does. Yep. I would say to really break it down, those are the four main strategies. If I had to break it down to how to get the price you want, understand the strategies, understand where your home sits feature-wise and finish-wise within the marketplace. Trust your realtor, right? That goes into, trusting your realtor goes into asking specific questions prior to hiring them to make sure that they understand what's going on in the market. Then from there, understand what your end game is. That's huge, right? You can't get the money you want if you don't know where you want to end up. Plain and simple. Like pricing anything, really. Like pricing anything.
So, to ask you, Naz, and since you're more residential than I am,
Yes.
what determines, is market the only thing that determines what pricing strategy to use?
It determines a lot of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like your market at the end of the day, here's what'll happen. You'll go on the market and the market will tell you if you're overpriced, underpriced, or priced just right. It'll tell you by the amount of showings you get. It'll tell you by the amount of offers you get. Like
Feedback.
Yeah, your feedback. Like it'll tell you a lot, right? On top of that, what else affects prices is, you know, the type of home you're in, the style of home you're in, the area you're in, the type of lot you're on.
The demand for that kind of property.
For that kind of property, right? Like there's very specific things. Like the market we've just come out of, it didn't matter what you were in. There was demand for everything.
Yeah.
That demand hasn't gone away. This is what people need to understand, right? Is people are afraid right now. Yes, I agree. But people that wanted to buy houses and didn't just go away. Like they don't disappear. They still are there. They're just trying to catch their bearings and understand based on the current market, based on the interest rates, based on what's planned to happen in the next 6 months. Do I wait? Do I buy? What do I do? Right? I'm one of those people that says the best time to sell your house is now, and not to wait, because at the end of the day, we know the market now. We can control the market now to a certain extent, but to risk a market that we don't know is a major thing. Like all these sellers that we speak to who say, no, I'm going to wait till the summer. I want to wait till the summer. Now they're kicking themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because they had an extra 15-20% on the table that they've lost now. So
The market is definitely shifting.
Yep. And that's the long and short of it. Like, listen, trust your realtor. Listen to your realtor. He or she has this job for a reason, right? Understand your home. Be realistic with yourself about your house. Your house is your house. And I know, like, people think memories overvalue their house, right? Because you have so many memories and you're so sentimental with your home. Understand that the buyer who's buying it doesn't share that sentiment with you. They're trying to create their own memories. So take your emotions out of it. Use just your head when you're selling your home and understand what your home really is realistically. And if you do those things and you use your brain instead of your emotion and feelings, it's very, very hard to be caught in a bad situation in the market. It's very hard, right? Well, that's my 2 cents.
No, and that's and I agree 100%. Trust your realtor, work with your realtor. Obviously, we're here to work with our sellers and work for their best interests.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we also want to be transparent, realistic, and help them understand and gain that knowledge on sort of the pricing strategies.
Yeah.
And subject to market conditions and what's that like.
Yeah.
When determining which one to sort of choose or angle. And
Absolutely.
again, multiple factors involved when doing that. But yeah, until next time.
Until next time.
This is The Real Deal.
Real deal.